The absolute best way to defeat arrogant authority is to follow their rules exactly. It's a game of patience, strategy, and knowing exactly when to let their own ego destroy them. Hey everyone, welcome back to Rule Backfired. I'm your host, Alex. Today, I am bringing you 3 unbelievable stories of malicious compliance. Stories where demanding supervisors, stubborn professors, and arrogant military officers demanded absolute obedience and ended up paying a massive price for it. In our first story, you'll see what happens when a boss tries to force unpaid weekend work against the vice president's direct orders. Let's dive in. Have you ever had a boss who completely ignored the concept of a weekend? This happened a few years ago during the 2020 lockdown, when our entire company transitioned to remote work. I was an hourly, non-exempt systems analyst. That meant I worked a strict 40-hour week, and any work beyond that legally required overtime pay. When we went remote, our vice president gave us a very clear directive. Unless we were salaried, we were absolutely not to answer work emails, texts, or calls outside of our scheduled hours. I was one of only 2 people in the company who knew how to build complex reports. A few weeks in, a supervisor from another city emailed me on a Saturday morning, demanding a report. Because it was my day off, I ignored it. Unhappy with the silence, he called my personal phone. I ignored it, but he was relentless. He called a second and third time, and then sent me an aggressive text message demanding that I stop being unprofessional, boot up my work PC immediately, and answer his email. Here is how a demanding supervisor's refusal to respect my weekend ended up getting him publicly humiliated by our vice president, while I got paid overtime for doing absolutely nothing. After he demanded I reply to his email, I embraced pure malicious compliance. I booted up my work computer. Without running the report, I hit reply and directly CC'd my VP. I wrote, "Hi, per the VP's strict directives, I am not permitted to work on the weekends. I am currently waiting for explicit approval from the VP to run this report outside of standard business hours." I sent the email and left my computer running. Less than 10 minutes later, the VP emailed me to hold off, then called me, explicitly noting I'd be paid for the call. After I sent him screenshots of the aggressive texts, he ordered me to log off. On Monday morning, there was a stern, company-wide email from the VP to all supervisors, reminding them never to contact me off the clock. When my paycheck arrived, I had an extra 3 hours of overtime pay for a situation that took an hour. That demanding supervisor got a brutal dressing down, and no one ever bothered me on a weekend again. It is amazing how fast a corporate power trip falls apart when you CC the right executive. Before we move on, if you love seeing bad bosses get what they deserve, hit that like button. But if you thought that supervisor was unreasonable, just wait until you meet our next villain. This story involves a rigid computer science professor, an archaic rulebook, and the ultimate zero-line victory. If you've ever been to college, you know that some tenured professors are firmly stuck in the past. In 2009, I had an industry veteran professor who notoriously demanded all coding assignments be submitted on physical 3.5-inch floppy disks. The ultimate challenge in his class was a memory tester assignment. For years, he boasted that his brightest student had completed it in just 13 lines of code. He challenged our class to beat it, explicitly stating, "There are no rules, no cheating here. Get creative. Use whatever trick in the book you can imagine." However, he provided one critical parameter. 3 specific commands did not count toward the final line total. One of those was DCB, or Declare Constant Block, which was a space meant only for storing static data, not executable instructions. While studying how the archaic processor worked, I realized a massive flaw. The processor did not distinguish between a block of static data and actual executable instructions. It would blindly execute whatever raw byte data it was pointed to. Here is how I beat an arrogant professor's unbeatable coding challenge: by submitting a fully functional program with exactly 0 lines of code. Realizing the processor's flaw, I decided to maliciously comply with the professor's exact rules. I wrote a highly optimized 25-line program and compiled it into raw binary bytecode. Instead of submitting those 25 lines, I took the raw binary data and pasted it directly inside a DCB block. I then pointed the program counter to start reading from that exact block. Because the outdated system couldn't tell the difference, it flawlessly executed the hidden data as code. And because the professor explicitly ruled that DCB blocks did not count as code, my official line count was exactly 0. The professor was utterly shocked and called it cheating, but I just smiled and recited his own words back to him. No rules, and DCB doesn't count. The professor had to admit defeat, and my 0-line victory went down in history. That is exactly what happens when you brag about an unbeatable record. Someone finds a loophole and leaves you with literally 0 lines of dignity. To celebrate that bruised academic ego, hit that like button, follow, and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and it requires 0 lines of code on your end. Up next, we have a story that proves why respect is a two-way street. Let's see what happens when a hotshot helicopter captain tries to pull rank on the guy holding the wrenches. We all know that basic respect goes a long way, especially in the military. Years ago, I was an E-4 crew chief, a mechanic working on Huey helicopters at a small airfield in Georgia. One day, I was sitting alone in our flight shack eating lunch as my supervisor was at the hospital for the birth of his child. Suddenly, an Army National Guard captain breezed into the shack carrying his helmet bag. Without slowing down and without even bothering to make eye contact, he tossed his aircraft logbook directly onto my desk. "I'm going to get lunch," he announced arrogantly. "I need my aircraft pre-flighted before I get back." He didn't even notice that I was eating. He clearly felt that a lowly enlisted mechanic was entirely beneath common courtesy. Here is how an arrogant captain's demand for a rush inspection ended up legally trapping him on our base overnight. After he disrespected me in my own shack, I decided to give him the absolute best, most thorough maintenance inspection in aviation history. While he was gone, I went over his helicopter with a fine-tooth comb. In military aviation, a red X in the logbook means the aircraft is completely non-flyable. I found several minor issues, and finally, the mother of them all. The slippage mark on the transmission bolt housing was cracked. By the book, it was a grounded aircraft. When the captain returned in a massive hurry, he saw the logbook and aggressively demanded I erase the red X. I calmly replied, "I can't do that, Captain. It's in the regulations." Once a red X is logged, only a certified tech inspector can clear it. Fuming, he demanded the tech inspector. I looked at him and said, "He's at the hospital having a baby. He won't be here until tomorrow morning." The captain was trapped. Because of his terrible attitude, he got to spend a miserable overnight stay at our swampy little camp. entirely grounded by the rulebook. Sometimes the absolute best way to beat a broken system is to follow their rules perfectly. So what about you? Have you ever maliciously complied with a toxic boss and watched it blow up in their face? I want to read your stories. Send them over to the email in the description box, and you might just be the star of our next episode. And I promise, your identity will remain completely anonymous. If seeing these control freaks get a taste of their own medicine made your day, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know down in the comments which story today was your favorite.